Thank you, Dr. Sachin. Uh, it is a great honor to be addressing fellow doctors on this platform. And what I think Dr. Sachin has a very old biodata of mine. Currently, I'm the president of Raipur Obstetric Gynec Society, and I'm an elected member of Chhattisgarh Medical Council. So, I am going to speak to you right now about HPV vaccination. And you might think, where's the role of HPV vaccination right now? Where is the role? Because right now we have other things to worry about. We are thinking about corona, we are thinking about how to run our practice, we are thinking about, the daily problems. Your staff management, your floor management, and your self-management. How to keep safe in this epidemic. So actually we are not looking out for another thorn in our flesh. And if I speak to you that, now let us think about cervical cancer prevention as well. You maybe feel that, why think about it right now? Our priority right now is just to do an emergency work, finish with our emergency work, and keep safe. Keep our families safe, keep our patients safe. But my friends, this is exactly the time when you can focus your mind on thinking about vaccination. Vaccination entails so little effort on your part, and the time taken for vaccination is a very small amount. Your exposure with the patient is minuscule. So, as most of you know that I have been trying to work on cervical cancer prevention for more than 20 years. And in this cervical cancer prevention, I started out with colposcopy and screening for cervical cancer, presented a lot of papers that you should do see and treat, just see it, treat it so that it does not progress. But if you come to the crux of it, all that is secondary prevention. With the vaccine, I started out colposcopy in the year 2000, and 2006 we got the vaccine. So if we can have primary prevention, there is really nothing like it. Secondary prevention has to go on. It is a must that those who have already been exposed, those who are having precancerous lesions, prevention has to be done. But now, again, why vaccine comes to mind? These days, you read everywhere that even cautery fumes will have the coronavirus. And the pre-cancer treatment, the lead treatments, the cauterization for cervical lesions has almost stopped because it is not an emergency. And we are so afraid of our own exposure due to the fumes that are generated by the cautery. So, invariably, if this corona epidemic continues for a long time, we will be facing a situation where we have advanced grade precancerous lesions. So, let us think of prevention. Now, no time like the present. So let us think right now. Slide doesn't seem to be moving. Yeah, thank you. So we will be discussing a little about the COVID pandemic, improved awareness about vaccination, which is the silver lining, the need for prioritizing HPV vaccination, the difference we as obstetricians and gynecologists can make, the postpartum vaccination, the questions we face, and why it is important to vaccinate adolescent girls. This is the most recent information, but you can read in detail. So, this is the COVID-19 pandemic, and the healthcare impact is immense. So many private hospitals are closing down, the government hospitals are overburdened, and the pandemic has affected healthcare system in many ways. There are limited healthcare resources, there is limited emergency treatment because the government setup is overburdened, and there is burnout in the healthcare workers. And what is happening in the private hospitals? The focus is on COVID-19, and this affects timely diagnosis and treatment of other diseases. There is mistreatment of chronic diseases, causing complications and increasing the overall disease burden. There is postponement of elective surgeries, so problems with the patients continue and their quality of life is impaired. Millions of children are missing out on routine vaccines and risk further outbreak of life-threatening diseases. We have forgotten polio, we have forgotten tetanus, but that has happened only and only because of vaccination. Now, if your children are not going to get the vaccine, then these things which are diseases caused by virus, but vaccine controlled diseases, they may all come back. And then again, regular prenatal visits are affected. A patient who is supposed to come to you in a month is coming after 3 months. And NT scans are missed, the anomaly scans are missed, the glucose screening is missed, and we all know the impact this might have on the fetus. So, what is the silver lining? That this experience, that an infection can cause havoc to public health, will probably improve public health infrastructure. It is causing better community awareness towards hygiene, and there is an inclusion of infectious diseases amongst the most important health hazards. Corona is just an infectious disease, but people are getting aware. And I think if you even talk to a village person, abhi tika aa jayega, theek ho jayega. They are all, everybody is waiting for the vaccine. But here is the twist in the whole thing. The vaccine that is available is not being used, and you are waiting for a vaccine that you don't know when it's going to come. So let us not disregard other diseases which are vaccine preventable. So before this corona, people used to think, ठीक है लगा लिया तो क्या, नहीं लगाया तो क्या, कुछ नहीं होता. But now when you think of COVID-19, everybody is understanding the significance of preventive medicine, including vaccines. Everybody is valuing that. We are experiencing what life without a vaccine for a deadly infectious disease is like. You can't do anything. There's no way you can prevent it except by social distancing, by not being exposed basically. But as you all know, you cannot not be exposed to HPV. So, what is the impact of COVID pandemic on immunization? As per the National Foundation for Infectious Disease, there has been a drastic impact on vaccination rates. 50% drop in measles, mumps and rubella vaccinations. 42% drop in diphtheria and whooping cough vaccinations, and 73% drop in HPV vaccinations. WHO has warned that disruption of immunization services, even for brief periods, can increase numbers of susceptible individuals and raise the likelihood of outbreak-prone vaccination preventable diseases. So these diseases which we have managed to prevent to a large extent due to vaccine may come back worse than before. This will increase the morbidity and mortality, and that too in predominantly young infants and vulnerable groups. This causes again a greater burden on the health systems, which are already strained by COVID-19 response. Can you imagine that there is COVID-19 in the ward, and then you get an outbreak of diphtheria, and then you get another outbreak of whooping cough? How are you going to manage it? So vaccination has to go on. While we wait for a vaccine for COVID-19, let us protect patients from other vaccine preventable diseases for which safe and effective vaccines are available. This is our job. This is what we have to do. Cervical cancer is one such fatal but vaccine preventable disease. These are data that I think we all know, that more than 60,000 women lose their lives to cervical cancer every year. 40 plus, more than 85% of patients from age group of 40 plus years are affected, and they are a very productive group. Less than 1% population is immunized against cervical cancer. 20% of all cervical cancer deaths occur in India, and the screening rate is only 3.1%. This is after the government has put in so much effort on starting BIA in multiple cities, multiple districts in certain states, and BIA is now a government program. But in spite of that, the screening rate is not more than 3.1%. HPV vaccine is a high impact vaccine as stated by Gavi. 20 deaths are averted per 1,000 women vaccinated. So this is a very high impact vaccine. If you see, even yellow fever, it's 1 to 4, pneumococcus 1 to 4, hepatitis B 10 deaths per 1,000 vaccinations, rubella less than 1 death per vaccination. But HPV, you have 20 deaths prevented per 1,000 women vaccinated. So it is a very high impact vaccine. We all know that gynecologists are playing an increasingly important role in a modern woman's life. This is because of 4 factors. The world's population is aging. There is a spread of information technology. There are advances in molecular based medical therapy, and the lifestyle of women is changing all the time. So as per ACOG, obstetricians and gynecologists play a critical role in women's care and should assess and vaccinate adolescent girls and young women with HPV vaccine during the catch-up period. Mothers come to us for treatment. Mothers come, we should ask them, we always take the obstetric history, how many children they have, what are the age of the children. So you can always advise a vaccination to the young adolescent girls at this very time. When you are advising screening to the woman, you can advise vaccination to her daughter. These are 4 reasons why gynecologists should prioritize HPV vaccination. It's written 1, 2, 3, 4. I would like to read it in reverse. The 4th and most important reason to me is that we see and treat cervical cancer. We know the damage that it causes to women and to the family. So those of us who have seen cancer cervix, stage 3, stage 4, and we know very well that this is preventable. And every year, still more than 1 lakh women are diagnosed in India alone. Every year of new cases of cervical cancer. So, because we know what cervical cancer can do, please think of vaccination. Then Foxy has recommended that women and girls should be vaccinated. India has 367 million eligible girls eligible population for HPV vaccination. But as you saw, less than 1% are vaccinated. We as gynecologists have an opportunity for catch-up HPV vaccination because women come to us with various complaints throughout their life, be it bleeding, amenorrhea, pain abdomen, backache, or menstrual problems. Everything is there, and women are coming throughout life to a gynecologist. HPV infection may occur or persist during pregnancy because of changes in the hormonal and immune response. This is the reason why we should think of postpartum vaccination. That is an opportunity for catch-up. There is high HPV prevalence in postpartum women, and only few women are positive for both HPV oncotypes. So majority of this group can still benefit from the vaccination. Postpartum vaccination is associated with favorable rate of vaccine completion. Postpartum administration of the HPV vaccine is feasible and is associated with a high degree of satisfaction. When you are writing the prescription for the baby, when the baby gets the vaccination, if you write a similar prescription for the mother, then the compliance tends to be much better. And they get the vaccine, and you know that now she is comparatively more safe. Your strong recommendation can make a difference to many women by not letting them miss an opportunity to protect themselves from cervical cancer. So postpartum vaccination is what you should be thinking about. Counseling and offering the HPV vaccine to a postpartum woman could be an effective strategy to increase uptake with the number of children that are born in India every year. So all those women could be offered the vaccination. Now there are certain things that come to mind. The patient may ask you certain questions. How do I counsel patients for HPV vaccination, especially in the current COVID-19 scenario? Then screening is enough, then why vaccinate? Postpartum vaccination, she's already been exposed. So isn't it too late? Do I need to vaccinate my patient if she's already positive for HPV? Patients are concerned about safety of the vaccine. So how to provide assurance? Is it safe in lactating women? Patients are concerned that disease happens in later stages of life. Even doctors are concerned that you're giving the vaccine at 9, 10, 11 years and the disease is of after 30. So how long will the vaccine last? How do I complete the HPV vaccination schedule if the vaccination dose is delayed due to lockdown? So these are the questions that a patient might be asking you, and we shall be discussing one by one the probable answers that can be given. How do I counsel patients for HPV vaccination? The challenges with HPV vaccination right now, there are limited prenatal visits, there are postponed routine screenings, and after delivery there is early discharge. So what is happening? You are not spending that much time with the patient. So there is compromised prenatal and postnatal vaccination counseling. In clinic consultations in the COVID era can be the sword of Damocles. Managing regular OPD with social distancing, then reduce staff, and then if you have to operate, the discomfort of a PPE. So this is really difficult. I think teleconsultation, it's time to adapt to the new normal. This is limited in the field of obstetricians and gynecologists because you really have to examine your patient. You have to do a PSPV, you have to do a per abdomen examination, you have to see her breast. But once you have seen, then subsequent consultations at least can be managed till a second repeat examination is required by telemedicine. Now, in teleconsultation challenges, how are you going to, speak about cervical cancer? If first thing is it has to be a priority for you. Then you make a checklist, whatever a patient is asking you. Maintain a checklist for whatever you have to discuss with the patient, like we take the history. After your consultation is over, you can share a video or literature. When you write prescription, then you need to, in the routine prescription, just you may write the vaccination that this is advised. As it is written for the children for rubella, varicella, influenza vaccine, you need to write that for the mother. And consider prescribing HPV vaccination in case it is not administered during discharge to ensure follow-up. So you need to adapt effective counseling techniques. You can do a video consultation, you can answer questions, you can have a limited time for it, but you must, if you have a checklist, you always know that the patient's concerns are addressed. So you need to talk precise and quick, and you need to touch the patient, because if your words don't really touch her, she'll think that telemedicine is a waste of time. So this is just a suggestion that, don't speak of percentages and the immunity. Don't use words that are laden with other meanings, like it's a sexually transmitted disease, it causes promiscuous behavior. Don't use all that. You can get the vaccine today to prevent cancer. It will keep you healthy. It will protect you from further disease. And together, you will have a better life. That is the benefit. And this has to be said with a bit of love for the patient, so that that patient can really get that what you are saying is for her benefit and not for your benefit. Screening is enough for preventing cervical cancer, then why vaccinate? You all know that I started off with screening long before vaccine came in the market. And screening is enough. But can we screen 365 million women? And screening has two aspects. You have a patient in your OPD. You want to screen her and she refuses an internal examination. How do you screen her? So screening is really not enough. It is a part of it, but it is not enough. If you see this chart, the best results are obtained when a woman can be screened 3 times in her life, at 35, 40 and 45 years, and vaccination is done, where prevention is 61%. But if there is no vaccination, in that case, single screening 30%, 2 screenings 21%, and 3 screenings 29% is the benefit. And this is provided the whole population is screened. And if you vaccinate, then the impact is 44%. Alone vaccination will also have an impact, though being a gynecologist, I would say let us add screening to it. Let us have a 61% impact instead of just a 44%. But it has to be with screening 100% and vaccination 100%. So let us all try for this. Cervical cancer is the only type of HPV cancer for which there is a recommended screening test. You can do an HPV HC2. Pre-cancer for other HPV related cancers may require invasive testing and treatment. Like the Barrett's esophagus, it is a pre-cancer of the esophagus. But you need an endoscopy and an endoscopic biopsy to find out that you have a Barrett's esophagus. 90% of HPV cancer are preventable with HPV vaccination. Postpartum vaccination, is it too late? This is the chart. And you can see that HPV infections are prevalent in women through all ages. The maximum are between 15 and 19, then 20, 24, 25 and 29. But even in the above 45 women, the new infection rate is 12.4%. So it's not that she's 45, so she stops having sex or she stops having infection. Rather, as menopausal changes occur, the immunity goes down and dormant infections may become active. And that is how you see cancers in later age. The risk of progression from CIN1 to CIN3 and cancer increases with age. If a girl is less than 20, the risk of progression to cancer is 0.4%. In 20 to 29 years age group, it is 1.7%. And in the above 30 age group, it is 2.7%. So risk of progression from CIN1 to CIN3 is 7 times higher in women who are more than 30 years than those who are under 20. And in our country, we are not screening girls of less than 20 years of age. We start screening at 30. And there, the progression is already high. So this QHPV vaccine is efficacious even in mid-adult women. There are Future 3 trials in 29,000 women, and what they found that it is 89% effective against persistent infection, CIN or extragenital lesions, 92% effective against ASCUS, high-risk HPV positive, 100% effective against L-cell or worse, and 100% effective against HPV 6, 11, 16 and 18 related CIN or condylomas. So the bottom line is that the vulval warts, the vaginal warts that we see, the anal warts that we see, they also come down. As also there is no CIN, no breakthrough in any women who has received the vaccine. Do I need to vaccinate my patient if she's already positive for any HPV serotype? Let us see what studies have to say for this. 73% women 24 to 45 years of age are naive to all 4 vaccine types. 20% are positive for 1, 6% are positive to 2, 1.2% are sensitive, are already exposed to 3, and only 0.1% have been exposed to all 4. So if you give the vaccine to 1,000 women, 1 for 1, it will be useless. But 999 will derive benefit from it. So 99.9% women will benefit. Therefore, it can be given and should be given to all women who are between the ages of 24 to 45 years of age as well. Because the ideal age of vaccination starts at 9 years of age. The catch-up starts from 15 years of age and then proceeds to 26. And beyond 26 is the adult group, but they should also be vaccinated. Patients are concerned about safety. So how do you provide assurance? Please read the studies. Read the studies. There are 7 phase 3 studies with more than 29,000 subjects. There are 15 post-licensure studies with more than 1 million subjects. And there are no side effects. When I say no side effects, what it means is that whatever has happened equally in the non-vaccinated population. So there is no increased rate of problems in the vaccinated population. More than 300 million doses have been dispensed worldwide, and these are all the agencies, who say that yes, it is safe. The benefits are more than the side effects or the risks. Be it WHO, FDA, TGA, PHAC, EMA, FIGO, FOXI, CDC, MHRA, and International Papilloma Virus Society. Is it safe for lactating mothers? So the HPV vaccine can be given to postpartum and breastfeeding women. It is very, very safe. Breastfeeding is not a contraindication to HPV vaccination. Available evidence does not indicate an increased risk of adverse events linked to the vaccine in either the mothers or their babies after administration of HPV vaccine to lactating females. What is the immunogenicity if somebody is lactating? It is comparable in those who are lactating and those who are not. So if a woman is lactating does not mean her immunogenicity is low. Patients are concerned that the disease happens in later stage of life. Then does QHPV have lasting effectiveness? So far in the adult group, 24 to 45 years who are vaccinated, 10 years of follow-up is available, and there is not a single breakthrough case of CIN in this group. So, there are certain questions that can only be answered with time. We have an answer for 10 to 14 years at the present moment. As time goes on, this will go on. How do I complete the HPV vaccination schedule if vaccination dose is delayed due to lockdown? All 3 doses need to be given. Ideally, they should be given within 1 year, but please remember, no dose is a zero dose. So between 9 to 10 years, it's 2 doses. 11 to 12 is 2 doses. 13 to 14 is also 2 doses. More than 14 years, then 3 doses have to be given. And all 3 doses have to be given within 1 year. When only 2 doses are given, they have to be given 6 months apart, 0 and 6. And the 3 doses are 0, 2 and 6. Why would you want to choose the quadrivalent HPV vaccine? Because it is efficacious even in the mid-adult women. It has proven effectiveness. It has established evidence in lactating mothers, and it has an assured post-licensure safety profile. Most importantly, it is effective, and we have studies even in lactating women. While protecting postpartum mothers, let us not miss out adolescent girls, the apt age group for preventing cervical cancer. Why adolescent girls? Because adolescents have a higher immune response compared to young adults, and that is why only 2 doses are enough. There is a high risk of acquiring infection even with the first male partner. Immunizing before exposure can give highest possibility per protocol efficacy, and the cost of immunization is less if only 2 doses have to be given. So there are 4 reasons. So it's more effective, it is safe, it is less expensive, and it protects however early the first exposure is. Here comes our part. Effective HPV vaccination counseling and strong recommendation is all it takes to protect women from cervical cancer. So your action today on adolescents, young adults, is going to protect them from cervical cancer, maybe long after you're gone. But you will have done your part to the society. So with this, I end my lecture, and I would welcome all questions, any reservations you may be having about the efficacy. See, what I do in my practice is, supposing the woman has come to me for heavy bleeding. I'm just giving an example. Now she is 35 years old and she has come with heavy bleeding. So primarily I will diagnose, examine and treat her primary complaint. But on the side of my letter pad, I would be writing that advised an HPV HC2 plus LBC when you stop bleeding, and then advised HPV vaccination. I just write it and I leave it. And they go home, and when they come for the next visit, most of the time they will ask, what does this mean? And why is it required? And once they are satisfied, they would agree both to the screening and the vaccination. The basic thing is that I have to write it on the paper, and that next time you come when you're not bleeding, it would be better if you get this done. So primarily treat her primary complaint and write an advice for the future. You remember, she remembers, and these days many of the patients, they go to the internet and they search and they read and then they come back. That you're writing it on your prescription is a reminder to you as well, because if you have a busy practice, I'm very sure you don't remember all your patients. It's virtually impossible. You don't remember all the details. So when she comes to you, you are flicking through your own sheets to remind yourself what is written, what is her problem, what are her previous findings, and when you see it written there, that is when you will be reminded. So you need to remind yourself, and the human mind is a great thing. If you do this maybe 5 times, 6 times, you will not forget. No, actually I already answered that you need to give the vaccine right from 9 years of age to 45 years of age till when it is licensed. Okay, you can give it in adult women, but again, because as age advances, the immunogenicity, your own immunogenic response becomes less. So you need to give the full 3 doses. If you give it in adolescence, you can give only 2 doses. Another thing is that you have to dissociate sex from the vaccine. That is my advice to everyone. Just dissociate. Sex is a normal human function, and 95%, maybe 99% will indulge in it sometime in their life. It is a normal thing that is going to happen. So like you give any other vaccine, you just give it as a vaccine and don't go on explaining that this is a sexually transmitted virus, it may cause cancer, so we are trying to prevent that cancer. And like small children don't like to think of their parents as sexually active, parents don't like to think of their kids as sexually active. So it has to be dissociated from sex. It is just a part of natural growing up. Like you give tetanus कि कभी ना कभी तो ये गिरेगा और मिट्टी से चोट लगेगा. So you give the tetanus. So similarly, just write the vaccine and give it. Dissociate it from sex in your mind. Dr. Sachin, if you could, name the doctor who has asked, I think I would be happier knowing who has asked. Okay, so I actually like to vaccinate the woman at 42 days, at her 6-week visit. Because during pregnancy, your immunogenicity is compromised. That is the normal state of affairs because the fetus is an allogenic graft. Therefore, the immunogenicity is compromised. So in 6 weeks, when all the pregnancy changes have come back to normal, is when I like to vaccinate my patients. I call them at 6 weeks for their first visit, when the baby gets the vaccination at 6 weeks and the mother gets a vaccination also. See, I'll tell you one more thing, that counseling doesn't have to be done by you. You write that prescription and train your staff nurses, the girls who work for you, to explain that prescription. So they can be trained, and because nurses are anyhow spending more time with the patient than a doctor is, especially when a patient is hospitalized, cleaning up, getting her ready, giving her medicine. So they are the ones who should after that follow up with the counseling. Your job is just to write. You need to make that effort, that minuscule 10 seconds to write vaccination. And if you don't want to make even that effort, get a seal made and get your staff to just stamp that seal on your prescription. Personally, in the entire 14-15 years that I've given the vaccine, I had only one patient who complained of very severe pain in her deltoid after her third dose. I gave all the injections myself, so I don't know exactly what happened, but there was only one patient who had that pain which went away after 3 days. But other than that, personally, I have not encountered any side effect so far. Sir, actually in our state, I am in Chhattisgarh, and we have got written orders that you need to run your OPDs back to normal. Though here every day the cases are increasing, means they are increasing by leaps and bounds. But that is what the administration has said to us. And what I am saying is that if you have a clean area and the girl just comes and gets vaccinated and goes away, I don't think, and she comes in her own vehicle, not in public transport, then it should not pose much of a challenge. And anyway, you have to complete 3 doses in 1 year. So I think we can wait another month and see what's happening. Vaccinate your children. Vaccinate yourself if you are within the age bracket. Get screened and keep a positive outlook. It is effective, and with the population that India has, which is both a big asset and also a big liability. If we want to protect all our women, let us be truthful, we will never be able to screen all of them as often as is necessary. And then once you have screened them also, their compliance to coming for treatment of screen positives is also difficult. So please vaccinate yourself, your family, and your patients as much as possible. Not just for HPV, but for influenza, for Tdap, for whatever vaccines are coming which are found to be effective. And I hope you have a safe life after corona and during the epidemic as well. Thank you.